Hi guys, my name is Kirsty. Welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be talking about all the new books that I've recently acquired. I'm so excited to share them with you. I have some really cool books to share with you today as well, so grab yourself a cup of tea because as usual I have like an unhealthy number of books to show you. So, you know, honestly, the day that I haul more than 100 books is the day we'll be surprised, but anything less than that is just, you know, fair game.
Non più tra I farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno.
Now we're going to start with audiobooks because I don't think I spoke about audiobooks in my last book haul, and I can't remember if I forgot or if I didn't have any, but I have not only been collecting and acquiring a lot of just standard books the normal way, I have also, like, Audible had a 2-for-1 sale. No, they had a 2-for-3 sale, and I couldn't resist. So was it a 2-for? Oh, it doesn't matter. In any case, I've actually got a lot of extra audiobooks. So let's go through them now, because honestly there's just so many. So the first one I want to talk about is the one that I actually bought with my subscription. It was a pre-order. Actually, it was a pre-order from a little while ago. And that is The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. If you've been following me for a little while, you may or may not remember that The Rose Code by Kate Quinn was one of my favorite books in 2021. It was just phenomenal, and I did the audiobook, and this audiobook is narrated by the same person who did The Rose Code, so I am diving into this one with super keen expectations. Do you think this one is set in Russia? So that will be interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to compare. I've never read anything else by Kate Quinn, so maybe The Rose Code was just a one-off, but I'm really hoping that Kate Quinn is going to be a new favourite of mine. So this is historical fiction, and I think it's probably World War II. I could look it up, but I'm too lazy. The next book I want to talk about is actually one I've got off the Audible, like, Premium Plus library thing that you get if you're a member, and that's Pride and Prejudice, which is also narrated by Rosamund Pike, and if you saw my wrap-up video, I recently read Sense and Sensibility, or listened to it, and that was narrated by Rosamund Pike. I have like mixed feelings about Pride and Prejudice because as much as I obviously loved the film because just brilliant, I really disliked reading the book. I found it to be a horrible reading experience, but I read it like 10 years ago or so, so it's been a while, and I also read like a horrible small font edition, so I'm kind of hoping that maybe this is just something I need to revisit. So I have downloaded this because I really enjoyed Rosamund Pike's narration of Sense and Sensibility, and I'm hoping and very curious to see if I end up falling in love with Pride and Prejudice, or maybe it's a story I just don't find as pleasing to read, who knows, but that's another one I've acquired. Another book that I've got with my membership is Ace of Shades by Amanda Foodie, and I am really keen to read this purely because so many other people love it. I actually don't know what this series is about. I think it's fantasy. I assume there's probably magic. It looks like magician sort of vibes going on. But I have got this purely off the hype. The number of people who share this on like Instagram and share the trilogy and how good all the books look together and talk about how much they love it has just got me so excited about it. So I wanted to try the audiobook. I really like the sound of the narrator for this one, and see how I go with it. The next one is one that I got in the sale, and that is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. Now this one is like an epic fantasy, and I just love the cover for it. Doesn't it look marvelous? So now this one I think sounds super interesting, so I'm just going to read you the first part of the blurb because I think it sort of sums up the right vibe as to why I'm excited about it. So a traveller walks down a forest road alone. A thief waits by the roadside. But today, Kinch has chosen the wrong mark. Galva is a knight, a survivor of the brutal Goblin Wars, and patron of the goddess of death. She is searching for her missing queen, whom no one has seen since her city fell to the giants. I don't know, and I just, like, honestly, I haven't read further than that. That's like half the blurb, but I just think it sounds so exciting. The next one I got was one I actually saw in a bookshop, and then I saw that it was in the sale in Audible, and I just was super curious, so I wanted to pick up a copy of it, and that's The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. I love the cover for this also. It's so mysterious. It low-key makes me feel like I'm going to be reading about Assassin's Creed, but I know that that is not what it is. This blurb starts with this line: "When the task is a killing, be quick and make sure of it. Torment is an indulgence. Save it only for the most deserving." So I assume we're going to be looking at assassins. We've got an outlaw. We've got someone who is in a band of thieves, it sounds like, and he's on a path of blood and vengeance, which eventually leads him to a soldier's life in the king's army. What a twist! And then we've got our Lady Everdeen, Oh, love it. Is this going to be like a bit of a Robin Hood? I'm hoping for a Robin Hood vibe here. That would make me very excited. But in any case, I'm just really curious about this one, and I feel like it's going to be a good read, so I'm excited to have the audiobook. I then got The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. I was really excited to see this on here because this is actually a book I added to my TBR. I think because I saw it on an Instagram page under the handle Bookish My, and she shares so many great and more obscure fantasy novels. So if you're looking for great fantasy recommendations, honestly, shout out to that account and I recommend you go and check it out. I think it was hers, I can't remember, but I saw someone talking about books, like older fantasy books that are still really good but people aren't reading because they're no one new. So The Goblin Emperor, let me work out when this was actually published for you. Okay, so The Goblin Emperor supposedly came out in 2014. I have to say I thought it was older than that, but nonetheless that's still going on 10 years now. And this one is about a half goblin character. I'm just really curious to dive into it and read about it. I feel like goblins are not something that I have really come across in my books recently, and I've acquired 2 audiobooks that have them in there, so that's quite exciting. So another audiobook that I picked up, which I am so excited about, is Gideon the Ninth by Tasman Muir? How do you say that name? This has so many good reviews by people, and it's a book I'm particularly like thrilled to have on my audiobook TBR because it feels like it's massively jumped the queue, because it was a book I wanted to go and buy one day, but it's like not high up on my weird mental and obscure priority of what I'm going to buy next. And so when I thought, you know what, I really like the sound of the audiobook and then the radar, let's go for it, let's get it. So I'm now going to get to listen to this probably years and years earlier than I would have done if I'd stuck to reading it. So that is so exciting. This is such a hyped book. So many good reviews for this. It's a fantasy book. It is more darker themes. It's about an emperor who needs necromancers. Do I need to say more? I don't think so. And I think the last book I have to share with you that I haven't shared previously is Spellbreaker by Charlie Holmberg. I think this was part of the premium program on Audible, so something that I've just got for free for however long it's available in that library. And this one, the cover really caught my interest. So let me read you part of the blurb for this one. It says, a world of enchanted injustice needs a disenchanting woman in the newest fantasy series by the Wall Street Journal best-selling author of The Paper Magician. I don't know what that book is. The orphaned Elsie Camden learned as a girl that there are 2 kinds of wizards in the world. Those who pay for the power to cast spells, and those like her who are born with the ability to break them. Ooh. But as an unlicensed magic user, her gift is a crime. Commissioned by an underground group known as the Cows, Elsie uses her spell breaking to push back against aristocrats to help the common man. She always did love the tale of Robin Hood. Oh my gosh, my Robin Hood dreams are coming true. There's more to it, but I feel like that gives you the idea of what that audiobook is about. Super keen to read them all. I have been consuming an obscene number of audiobooks. Like I think I did 4 last month, so that was just an incredible effort. And honestly, I can just foresee that effort going ahead. But let's dive into the rest of the books because there's so many of them. Like there are so many of them. Let's go. First up, I want to talk about a Terry Pratchett book, so The Light Fantastic. This is part of the Discworld series, I think, and this is actually a duplicate that my boyfriend had and he has given to me to hold on my bookshelves, and also in the hope to read it, because I read 2 Terry Pratchett books and I wasn't the biggest fan, but perhaps I was too young when I first tried reading it, so I'm keen to give this a go and see if I can maybe get into it, but I'm not holding my breath on it, but I'm really excited to have another chance to have a crack at it. And also I love these editions, they're just beautiful. The next book is a book that I bought because it is a sequel in the correct edition and size, and that's The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. So this is the sequel to The Prison Healer, and I saw it, it was so cheap, it was like less than half price in the bookstore, and I suddenly thought, it's the tall edition, and if I don't get the tall edition now, then perhaps by the time I get around to reading The Prison Healer, they'll be selling them at the shorter edition. So I did the responsible thing, and I went and got the book at the correct size so that they are matchy-matchy on the bookshelf and look stunning. What's this about? I honestly don't know. I'm not going to read the blurb because I learnt my lesson in my last book haul, and best not to read sequels blurbs or you spoil yourself. The next book I want to talk about is actually the book club pick for the Dimmicks Book Club in April, in May, I don't know, this month's one, and that's Anatomy, a Love Story, and this is by Dana Schmartz. This one is so intriguing. From on the screen when I first saw this, I assumed this was just a heart, but it's actually a woman in a dress with the dress laid out looking like a heart. which is very exciting. This one is set in 1817 in Edinburgh. It's about a woman who wants to practice medicine, but she's not allowed, but she strikes a deal that if she can practice and pass the exams, then they will let her continue studying. And so she's teaming up with someone to try and recover bodies so that she can practice on corpses. So there's going to be some grave robbing. I also think there's a bit of magic going on, but I can't quite understand exactly what it is, just going by the blurb. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one over the next month. This is something I've been really keen to read anyway. It's something that's just sort of caught my eye because it doesn't look like a YA fantasy, but it is. It's just a very strange jacket on this one. So super keen to find out more about this. The next book is one that I received for review from Harlequin Fiction, and that is Sister Stardust by Jane Green. This one is out now, and this one is technically historical fiction, though I don't think it's set too far in the past. It is going to be about sisters. I will read you the first part of the blurb. From afar, Talitha, I don't know how you say that, life seemed perfect. In her 20s and already a famous model and actress, she moved from London to a palace in Marrakesh with her husband, Paul Getty, the famous oil heir. I don't know if these are real people. There, she presided over a swirling expat scene filled with music, art, free love, and a counterculture taking root across the world. When Claire arrives in London from her small town, she never expected to cross paths with a woman as magnetic as Talitha Getty. Yearning for adventure and independence, Claire is swept off to Marrakesh. This just sounds like it's going to be like a big friendship thing and probably some drama going. It says it's page-turning, lush, and luminously drawn. What's praise? That's fantastic. I hope I can read this at some point, though honestly, the number of books I've just got on my radar and for review, and this was sent to me unsolicited. I don't know when I'm going to get to this one, but hopefully in the future, hopefully this year, who knows. It's not a very big book, so maybe I can do it, but I think there are probably too many other books ahead of this one that it might be a while before I get to this one. But if you've read it, let me know if you think I should bump it up my TBR. I went back to my favourite secondhand bookstore, and if you watched my wrap-up video, then you will have already seen the next few books I'm going to show you. I traded in some old books I didn't want to get store credit, which I can then buy new books with. It's a fun time, it's very addictive, and it's actually a really great way to encourage me to clean out my shelves. And so the first book I have to show you is The Swift and the Harrier by Minette Walters, and this one is, again, historical fiction. It is a glorious size. It's a lovely colour of orange. It's set in 1642 in Dorset, England, and it's about a civil war. As I've said before, this era and this kind of storyline is exactly what I want to be reading about the people involved in these historic events and what's going on, because I want the fun of a story, but I also want to pick up on some of the historical context, which is why I'm reading books like Philippa Gregory's books, or more accurately, I should probably say why I'm collecting all these books and then never getting around to reading them. But this is hopeful that one day I will get around to this in the not too distant future. As I said, this next book's also from that secondhand store, and it's The Christie Affair by Nina Gramont. This one I cannot wait to dive into. This is actually the second book that's been released recently-ish that's about this. It's about the 11 days that Agatha Christie disappeared in 1926. I love Agatha Christie. I just can't get enough of her books, and I want to read more of her stuff. And so when people are writing about Agatha Christie herself, I have just got more and more intrigued and want to engage in more material about it, and I've heard good things about this one, and I love the cover for it, so I'm really excited to dive into this history because I'd never heard of this before and I don't really know anything about it. This is the blurb. I think it sounds really intriguing. It's super, well, this is the catch line of the blurb. It's not really the main thing. It says, in 1926, Agatha Christie disappeared for 11 days. Only I know the truth of her disappearance. I'm no Hercule Poirot. I'm her husband's mistress. So that just has me, what a great perspective to be narrating this story from. The next one's another review copy from Harlequin Fiction, so thank you to them for sending that to me. It's Fiona McCullum's new book, Her Time to Shine. This one I will not be reading. This isn't really my genre, but I think it does sound really sweet. It's something that my mum would like to read, so I will get back to you guys. I would love to start a series where I do reviews about what my mum thinks of certain books, because she has such great taste in books as well. But this is out now, so this one is set in Australia, I believe. It's set in Adelaide, and it's about a woman who's nearly at 50 and she's working in a funeral home. There's other things going on, and I think she's forming friendships and communities. So it's just sort of, I think I'm too far removed from the main character in this one to pick it up, but I do think that this sounds like a great read for the right audience. The next book I have already read. I received this one for review, and again, you will have seen this in my wrap up, and that is everyone in my family has killed someone. I have this review copy which has a dummy cover on it, so the real cover is underneath, which is so much fun. This is brilliant. It's a murder mystery set in a ski resort. The narrator is super candid and super reliable, which is the whole selling point of this book. So at the beginning you get this sort of preface which is telling you all about what's about to happen, but without actually spoiling you. So you literally have like the page numbers of when there's going to be deaths in the book, and then he will quite tongue-in-cheek refer back to that page when something is like, did they die or did they not die? And then he'll be like in brackets, we'll check the page numbers because you already know the answer. So there's like this very it's a very self-aware book, and I think it makes it so fun to read. This is like definitely going to be like right up there on my best books I've read this year. So if you haven't read this yet, if you haven't got a copy of it, which would be fair because it's only just come out, please go and get yourself a copy. Do yourself a favour and read it. This is as good, if not better, than Agatha Christie's that I have read so far. Thank you to Penguin for sending me this book. The next book I want to show you is one I also bought because I have the first book, which I haven't read, but didn't want to miss out on the correct format of the sequel. There's a bit of a trend going on here, and that is the Boneshard Emperor by Andrea Stewart. So I have the Boneshard Daughter, which is red. It's like a burgundy and it looks so nice on the shelf next to each other. I had a particular panic with this one because I saw that the first book is now only being sold in the smaller edition if you want it firsthand from a bookstore, in Australia at least. So I definitely was like, I'm going to buy the sequel now because I'll be so upset if I don't have a tall edition. These books are so lovely to read from because they're so much bigger and floppier. This is a fantasy. I don't know much about it. I just know that there's some really great reviews for it. And again, I'm not going to look at the blurb in case I spoil myself. So we'll just have to both go and look up what this book is about after this. So the next three books I want to show you are ones I've hauled before, but I got sent finished copies of them. These are all from Harlequin, so I just want to quickly whiz through them so you can see what the finished covers look like. These were all March releases. So we have A Family of Strangers by Fiona Lowe. It's got this lovely blue cover with the thread on it. I've got The Way From Home, which honestly looks pretty similar to the unfinished copy that I had by Jane Cockram. And I finally have a finished copy of The Nurse's Wall by Victoria Pullman, which I'm planning to read next. I'm so excited to read this one. So that's just an FYI of what these look like and what you can look out for on the shelves if you want to go and pick up a copy of these. And thank you very much to Harlequin for sending me these copies. They are all going to be magnificent reads when I get around to them. The next book I don't think I've shown you, though I'm pretty sure I should have done. It was a copy of a book I won in a giveaway. I don't actually know if this one is out yet or not, and that is The Bookseller at the End of the World. This is actually a memoir by Ruth Shaw. She owns a bookstore at the very south point in New Zealand, and there are some pictures in here as well. It's got the most stunning end papers of all these books here. Absolutely gorgeous book. So yeah, was thrilled to win a copy of this from Allen & Unwin, and I'm really excited to dive into it when I next get the chance because I'm kind of really interested. I feel like this will be a really interesting memoir to be reading about. So the next book I picked up after reading Stolen Focus, and I will talk about that in future wrap-ups. And you would have seen me talk about it in my book haul last month, and that's Atomic Habits. So this is really popular at the moment. It's by James Clear. It's non-fiction, so it's about how to form good habits and break bad habits, and it's sort of about the psychology behind how habit forming works and why we do what we do. I wanted to read it to see how it compared to Stolen Focus and see, because I found Stolen Focus to be really candid and amazing, but you'll hear more about that in other videos. And I was just curious because I kind of thought maybe this is just a money spinning gig of someone who's just written the equivalent of a diet book but for wellness, and I just kind of wanted to see what all the fuss was about because everyone really likes it. But I'm pleased to say that what I've read so far, because I have already started reading this one, it's actually really good, and I think it really complements other books like Stolen Focus. But I will talk more about that in a wrap up. For now, I just wanted to show you that I have acquired it and started reading it. The next two books I want to show you, and I'm very excited about, so you will have seen some of these books in my unboxing for the novelist box. So let's just quickly spin through them. So the first one was The Atlas Six by Olivier Blanc. I've heard some good things about this one. As I mentioned, I love the cover for this. I've got one with the black glittery sprayed edges. And it's just beautiful. It sounds super intriguing, and it's all about six magicians who are competing for a place within like a magical society, I kind of feel like it might be a university or something, and it just sounds like there's gonna be really interesting pairings of people and sort of things going on. Then there was also The Bone Spindle by Leslie Vedder. This is a Sleeping Beauty reimagining, and I am all there for that. That is all I need to know. I think this one sort of mixes up gender roles in terms of what happened in the story a little bit more, so I think it's much more about the princess going out to save the prince, which is always a big tick. Then we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is the latest book by Schwab, and this one, I think there's a parallel dimension going on and a lot of sort of gothic vibes and like more haunty sort of books. So I am really curious to dive into this one. I feel like every book I've read by V.E. Schwab has been so different from the last. I have read Vicious, Addie LaRue, and now I have Gallant to read, so I think it will be a really interesting time to compare the stories together. And the final one that came in the novelist box was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This sounds amazing. It's by Axio. It is a Korean retelling. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's a retelling of a Korean legend, and it's all about this community who are sacrificing people to these sea gods, and then someone wants to go in place of someone else. So it's your standard sort of almost Mulan-like story, so I'm very excited to read this. I'm like super hyped in particular. I cannot wait to pick this one up. Now the next book I want to talk about came in the inaugural box for Fairyloot for the adult book only fantasy box. So if you're not aware, Fairyloot has started doing book only boxes for people who don't want the whole rest of the shabam, which is me, and I'm so excited because I've mentioned before one of the reasons I love novelists is it's just the books and it's not all the extra stuff, which I don't really want to have, and I'm so thrilled that Fairyloot is doing it as well, and I managed to get on the list for the subscription, which is very exciting because I've never had anything from some of the bigger subscription boxes. So if you have subscribed to this or you don't want to know what the March box is for the adult fantasy book only box for Fairyloot, then skip ahead a minute or so because I'm going to be talking about that right now. So the book that came in the March box for Fairyloot was also the Atlas 6. So I do now have a double up of it, but I'm not mad at all because look how stunning this is. Instead of the black cover, we've got white. We have the most gorgeous sprayed edges. It's got all different elements on it, most notably the sword. When I take the cover off, I've got this lovely gold foiling on the front as well as on the spine. There is some commissioned artwork as the end papers, and there are also full page illustrations throughout the book as well for the characters. So there's a lot going on, and I'm just honestly so stoked that I finally have a Fairyloot book in my hands, and I will definitely be putting this on a little collector's shelf. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes in future months and what the books are going to look like. I feel so excited that I can finally have a little collection of these really special books that are done up in such a nice way. It just really makes me feel like a really hardcore bookworm. But yes, so very excited about that and not at all upset because it's so different from the other black edition, and I will be reading from this one and probably not reading from this one just so that I don't damage it when I read in the bath or something very irresponsible like that. The next book I want to talk about is actually a special edition of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and that is this edition here with the white cover and also with some sprayed edges. I believe this is the Waterstones edition, but we also managed to get some in store in Australia. So this is equally stunning. It is the same sort of quality as you might see in Fairyloot. It's just a gorgeous cover. Addie LaRue usually has a black cover. When I take the jacket off, there is this silver foiling over all of it with flowers, which is just gorgeous. Of course, there is special artwork on the end papers here. I will show you both the front and the back. And then there is artwork throughout. There's a section in the middle specifically with some artwork as you would have in like a memoir or something. I don't think there's illustrations throughout. I think that's the only place where there are illustrations going on. It's also got a really gorgeous, like bright yellow headband going on, and it has a ribbon. So like lots of really exciting things going on there. Was so excited to pick this one up because I don't actually own a copy of Addie LaRue. I listened to it on audiobook. So it's really nice to have such a lovely edition of it. Although it would have been nicer if they did it in like a really tall edition. This is quite a short book compared to some of the other ones. I'll give you a size comparison there to Gallant. You can see it's the shortest size book, but you know, it's still absolutely stunning. The next book is one that I picked up in an independent bookstore that recently opened up in Perth, and I wanted to check it out. And I got This Is Not a Book About Benedict Cumberbatch by Tabitha Carvin. I have seen this one advertised everywhere and lots of people are talking about it because it's got such a ridiculous title, and I love that it's not a book about Benedict Cumberbatch, but apparently he does feature a lot as like a crush that she has. I'll read you a little bit about what the book is actually about so you can get an idea. This, as the title says, is not actually a book about Benedict Cumberbatch. In fact, it's a book about women and what we love, about what happens to women's passions after we leave adolescence, and how the space for joy in our lives is squeezed ever smaller as we age and why. More importantly, it's about what happens if you subvert that narrative and simply love something like you used to, and so on and so forth. So this is very much so up my alley at the moment. I'm really enjoying these kind of books that are exploring ideas like this, so I'm really excited to read it, and I have heard quite a number of good reviews so far. The next book I'm just like stoked I finally have a copy of, and that one is Iron Widow by, no, do you know what, I'm not going to try and butcher her name. I am so excited to have this one. Everyone has talked about it. It's so popular on TikTok, and I just love the cover. I also just think it sounds absolutely wicked. I didn't realize what this was about until I actually picked up a copy, so let me read the blurb for you, because if you haven't read the blurb, I think you'll be surprised. You've been living in a dream for long enough. Welcome to your nightmare. The boys of Huaxia? I don't know how to say these. Huaxia? That's definitely not how you say it. The boys of this place dream of the celebrity status that comes with piloting chrysalises, giant transforming robots that battle with aliens beyond the Great Wall. Their female co-pilots are expected to serve as concubines and sacrifice themselves. When 18-year-old Zetienne offers herself up as a concubine pilot, her plan is to assassinate the ace male pilot responsible for her sister's death, but on miraculously emerging from the cockpit unscathed after her first battle, she is declared an Iron Widow, the most feared pilot of all. It just sounds so interesting, and I love, apparently this is repping polyamorous relationships, which is pretty much a first, I think, in YA fantasy. I think it's going to be a really interesting sort of commentary on the gender battle, as it were. So yes, just very hyped in general, and can't wait to pick this one up. The next 3 books were the last books I got when I traded in at the secondhand bookstore. The other ones I talked about a little while ago. And I managed to get a box set of V.E. Schwab's A Darker Shade of Magic series, which is just unreal. These are in mint condition and came all in this lovely, I just can't believe I managed to get this. They were so seriously discounted for being secondhand. So it's A Darker Shade of Magic, A Gathering of Shadows, and A Conjuring of Light. This is her most popular series, and it's sort of the series that I always associate V.E. Schwab with, and have just somehow never managed to get a copy of it in my hands. So I'm thrilled that I finally have it and have the opportunity to read it when the time comes up and I can actually do so. If you don't know, it's a fantasy series, and I think there might be some sort of parallel worlds going on, but truth be told, I'm not sure. I just know it's magic, and I know I'm going to enjoy it. The next book I want to show you is actually a picture book that I received, and that is Arabella's Alphabet Adventure. I am intending to show you more of the picture books that I've been receiving. I have been reviewing and receiving quite a number of picture books, and honestly, some of them are so sweet. I have a new nephew, and so I have been diving in and making sure he has all the books in the world, and so Arabella's Alphabet Adventure is the latest one I've got. It's come from Walker Books, so thank you to them. This is just a really cute story about a book that is a children's book, and it's an alphabet book that doesn't want to be in the children's section anymore. And so it goes on adventures to try and be on the shelf and get used by adults, and like there is just some great exploring and fun things that happen in this. And I particularly love this spread here. So there's just like some really cute and gorgeous illustrations. I found this very sweet. And we're nearly there. I've got the final thing I want to show you today, and it's massive. It's another box set, and I have to thank my boyfriend for getting me a copy of all of these. I'm so excited, and honestly so impressed that I don't already have this, and that is the Twisted Tales box set. It's a behemoth. So this is the first 10 books in this series, and it's Twisted Tales. It's done by Disney, and it's a bunch of reimaginings of the classic fairy tales. So it has corresponding icons here to tell you which ones there are. There are more than this. I'm kind of hoping they do a second book box one day, because I think they're still planning to write quite a few more. So we've got Alice in Wonderland, Cinderella, Peter Pan, Frozen, Snow White, Little Mermaid, Mulan, Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, and Aladdin in this box set. They genuinely sound like so much fun, and this is what the box looks like. If you're curious, it says Twisted Tales on the end. It's got like the order on the top and Twisted Tales on the other one. So I'm so excited to dive into these. At some point I'd love to do like another massive readathon and vlog it for you guys. I've heard that they're really amazing books, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to get through them reasonably quickly. But yeah, I'm just super keen. I'm such a big Disney nerd, and it's such a big part of my life, so it's really exciting to have so much literature surrounding like and be so close to the original tales. So that is everything I have for you today. It's a lot of books. I told you it's a lot of books. What can I say? I can't say anything. I can't wait to see how many books I get in May. With any luck, maybe it won't be so big, because this is just insane. But honestly, I'm so excited about so many of these. So let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of them or if you're planning to, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.